Hi guys, welcome back to Famous Artists Throughout History unit in middle school art class. This is our fourth week in this lesson, so you guys should be able to recognize these by now, right? So, anyone have the name and artist and time period for this piece? Tara?
Da Vinci.
Yeah?
The Mona Lisa.
That's right. And what time period?
The Italian Renaissance.
Good job, awesome. Anybody else for this piece? Jenna?
Pablo Picasso,
Yeah?
self-portrait, 1972.
Good job, awesome. Alright, so I'll give these guys back to you. So you guys can look at them up close. Ask a few more questions. What similarities do you guys notice between these two pieces? Jenna?
They're both people.
They are both people. That's good. Anybody else? Oh, how about differences? Anybody? Oh, sorry, Jenna. Do you have any similarity?
I was going to say they're both relatively serious.
That's true.
As far as facial expressions.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So both pretty serious portraits. Matt?
They're both, mostly straight on looks at their face.
That's
it's not, them in a scene, really. It's really just the portrait.
That's a good observation. Okay. Any differences between the two? I see a bunch, so.
And the colors that are used.
The colors are extremely different, that's right. Anything else? Yeah, Matt?
The Picasso doesn't seem to really have much like a backdrop to it, whereas the Mona Lisa has this full scene behind her.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the self-portrait, all you really want to see in that picture is the subject, whereas in Mona Lisa, she's part of a greater image. That's a good observation too. Yeah, Jenna?
The rhythm in it, I mean, this one, you see a lot of the movement and texture as far as the clothes, and this doesn't look like he's really wearing clothes.
That's true. That's true. Remember last week we talked about the style, different kinds of styles. So what are the two different styles in these pictures? Yep. Tara?
The Picasso is abstract.
Yep, that's right. And what about the Mona Lisa? Matt?
It's realism.
Yep,
Naturalism.
that's right. Let's see. Does anyone have any opinions about what maybe the artist's style might say about them, like is in their time period or the way they feel about art, or why do you think they chose their two different styles? Yep, Matt.
Well, obviously with the Da Vinci doing a more naturalist style, it's all formal. It's about portraying things accurately. First and foremost, painting someone with proper proportions to real life is sort of paramount. But for Picasso, it's more about the expression.
Yeah.
It's more about things aren't painted realistically. It's more to obviously you get with this one you get a sense that this is obviously a person. That's clear, but it's but the color scheme and all the form, all the lines, everything about it, it's not the exact replica of reality.
Yep, that's great. That's a good observation. What feeling do you think Picasso was trying to portray in his piece versus what do you think Da Vinci was trying to portray in his piece about the subject matter? I know in Picasso's obviously himself, and in Da Vinci, it's been debated, but it's probably not himself in that picture. But, so what do you think that the emotion they're trying to portray in each one? Yeah, Matt?
Well, the Picasso's almost looks sickly. Just the colors, his face looks, and the beard is kind of scraggly and doesn't look very well. Whereas in the Mona Lisa, there's a lot of warm tones to it. And it even blends well with the background. So, even though it's not necessarily this really bright, happy painting, it certainly isn't this kind of sickly feel that you get out of Picasso.
Right. Good. So today we're doing a project actually about that. We're not only going to use our own personal style, but we're also going to say something about the subject. In this case, it's going to be somebody else. Like I know last week we did portraits of ourselves, but this time we'll be doing portraits of others. So last time we talked about the differences between naturalist art, such as the Mona Lisa, and abstract art, such as Picasso's self-portrait 1972. We discussed how naturalist art shows a real subject as it appears in nature, while abstract art strives to capture the emotional aspect of a subject, not necessarily how it might appear in real life. We also practiced creating self-portraits, one in Da Vinci's naturalist style, or Picasso's abstract style, and another in your own personal style. And you guys all did a great job with that project. Today, we're going to take our portrait work a step further by creating a portrait of someone else in your own personal style. However, the catch in this assignment is that not only are you creating art in your own style, but you are taking a hint from both naturalist and abstract artists by adding a bit about the subject into your piece. In other words, try to portray both yourself in your style, but your idea of the subject in your execution. An example of this would be Mona Lisa's sly smile, or the colors that Picasso chose to portray his personality. We'll be using oil pastels on canvas board for this project. They're all out for you guys to use, and I'll be available walking around the classroom for any assistance you might need with technique or any ideas you might want to have on the subject. So, are there any questions, or no? You guys ready to get started? Okay.
Yes.
Great. All right. So let's have Jenna can draw Matt, Matt can draw Tara, and Tara can draw Jenna. That work out?
Perfect.
Good.
Great.
All
Okay, you guys can get started. This seems like you're all picking pretty much closer to naturalism than abstract, with a little bit of quirkiness in there. I like that. That's a good idea, kind of mixing it. A lot of artwork does that and mixes a bunch of different styles together to get a different style. We'll be talking more about that. You guys have gotten a little farther into your pieces. How might you describe your own personal style? You can keep working while you think about this and answer it whenever you feel like it. But. Is there any artist you feel closer to, or not at all close to, or?
Well, I think I'm trying to get, I want to kind of have some kind of backdrop here, like Da Vinci does, and I definitely want to integrate some of those same colors into the face, but they'll be sort of more odd colors, so I feel like that aspect of it's more like Picasso.
Okay.
In that because with the Mona Lisa, the colors are very natural, and they happen to also be similar colors in the backdrop, but for the Picasso, doesn't have a backdrop, he's got those sort of odd colors. So I'm kind of interested in both those things.
That's great. I love this so far.
I think mine's more Da Vinci's colors, because they're more real colors. She doesn't look sickly, I hope. But with more of an abstract feel to it.
That's great. I love how you're using the pastels,
She's
too.
not going to have eyes.
That's an interesting choice.
That's very nice.
You don't have eyes either
So that I
yet.
don't have vision.
No.
She loves
That's
the
well, that's
smarts.
why you have glasses, right?
I'm just smarts. Yeah. I think that a lot of my line movements and such are more like Picasso's, because it's less realistic. The proportions are not proportionate whatsoever. But so far I'm using more natural colors, but I
Cool.
think I'm changing that.
That's great. Well, I have any, you don't have to answer this, it's just an interesting question I just thought of. But how do you think your artistic style was influenced by your interests and your views of art in general? Like, how do you think it came to be that way? It's an interesting prompt to think of for next week, too.
I think I'm always interested with art with just kind of where, actually a lot like this, like kind of where the abstract and the formal meet, you know, because formalism has this like accessibility to it, but you know, experimentation has all this energy to it. I mean, when you look at Picasso, I mean, regardless of what you think, although I really like him, but regardless of what you think, I mean, it's undeniable just how much energy, motion, and movement there is in it. You walk into a gallery and it's got a bunch of Picassos or of that style, and it's just so much energy in the room.
That's
when
really
you walk
good
in.
annotation. Yeah.
But with the Mona Lisa, it's sort of it's like a quieter. I mean, when you go into like a museum that shows a bunch of the Renaissance era art, it's elegant and things like that, but it doesn't have. I mean, I love it, but it doesn't have that same kind of energy, or there's something radical to us about it today, even though probably at the time it was very radical, the way that they were painting at the time.
So how does that inspire your own style, do you think?
I guess I understand the accessibility that the Renaissance provides, and I think that's why it's really lasting, and why people still love the Mona Lisa and, you know, painting paintings of that era.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's just some of that energy that's coming now. I'm trying to find sort of a modern context for that is really important. So I think as I kind of here, I mean, I don't have much skill yet, but as I'm trying here to just kind of combine those two, where it can be very accessible to someone, but also have that kind of that sort of new energy to it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know a lot of people when abstract art first became prevalent, and still today, a lot of people find it inaccessible. And like you were saying, it's important to kind of, if you want your art to be, you know, at least a little bit more popular, you might want to try to reach out to people who might not necessarily like to look at abstract art as much as realist, but kind of try to sneak in a few abstract things here and there.
Right.
Just kind of try to introduce them to it, like you guys were introduced to it a while ago.
People think abstract's harder.
Less, I guess, like less accessible. Like you'll look at it and you say, you know, a lot of people
to
say,
understand it.
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like it would be easier to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's
guess there
interesting.
is that kind of thing. Well, I mean, Picasso's really interesting too for that because, like, you know, early on, I mean, he's capable of doing a painting that looks like the Mona Lisa. Like,
Yeah,
he's got that
and he
level of
has.
skill, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In that early stuff. But then he decided, I can do that, but I don't want to. You know, it's
Right.
almost like a musician, like, I don't know, like some piano players, like, you'll hear the early albums, like, they're going crazy on piano and doing all these, you know, these really flashy things. But then I always find, like, later on in their careers, they're pretty much just keeping it simple
Right.
and kind of building off of that. So, I don't know, it's really...
That's a good. Yes, Jenna?
To answer your question
Mhm.
about inspiration,
Yeah.
I think for me, I like the psychology of facial expressions and
Mm-hmm.
in people as well. Like so, for Matt specifically, since that's who I'm drawing, like his eyes are the main feature
Mm-hmm.
because when you speak with him, you're drawn to him,
Mhm.
like his conversation and everything. So I think that would influence it more so than the detail of it, the feeling you get when you see the art. So
Great. Next week we'll be doing a formal presentation of this and last week's artwork. So remember to bring them back to class and make sure you prepared to answer all the questions. Same things we answered last time and today, but just try to remember your answers and be ready for that next week.
I have to remember for our quiz.
The other terms on the quiz are expression. So remember what expression is?
The emotion that you give into a piece of art.
Yeah, almost. It's the process of making known one's thoughts or feelings. So it's that kind of expression, not the other. Yeah. So
Okay,
yeah.
I
So Picasso makes known his feelings through his expression in his artwork. But it can also mean the way you use line, the way you use shapes in art too.
Right.
Expressive shapes, expressive line. So you're right. Don't worry. And the other one is style, which we talked a lot about today.
Right.
Different kinds of style. Great. Is everyone done?
Yes.
All right. Why don't you show your portraits to your person or to everybody?
Let's pass them to the right, like in hearts. Oh, okay.
Very nice. All
that
right,
reminds
so
me of something, but I don't know what.
Probably you.
No, like there's a cartoon character or something that I.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice. So next week we'll bring these back to class and the other two that you made last week. And we're gonna do each stand over to the class and give a presentation on your artwork, how you came across your style and describing the style you chose for the last project, all this stuff, everything we talked about last week and today. So just be prepared for that next week. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks for a
fun.
great class.
Thank you.